I freaking love this series. I love Dangers of My Heart so dang much. Every single episode of this series is literally making it more and more and more solidified as easily my favorite rom-com romance series of all time. But yes, episode 16 was fantastic. There was a brief little side of me that was getting a little bit frustrated, like, please, Ichikawa, don't keep doing this. We're not getting it. It was a point where I'm like, Ichikawa, if you're not getting it right here, if this does not give you enough signals, okay, you get it. It's like that moment where he finally, it kicks on the music and it says literally Yamada Likes, and I was like, thank you, my gosh, thank you, boy. I was going to be so freaking mad. It's one of those things where, like, this entire series is so much about that, like, them discovering love, discovering what that love is, going from just wanting to be with each other to realizing that you want more than that, having that fear of engaging, the fear of rejection, the fear of not knowing if you're worthy of it, and then kind of slowly moving into that realm of how do you express it? How do you express what you want without actually saying it? And this episode, the entire episode was literally Yamada just throwing out the signals, but not actually saying it. So he's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's what she's going for. Am I misinterpreting this? But yes, I think if the later part of this episode is not sign enough, if it goes in the next episode and we completely reset this, I'm going to get angry. I will admit that. Everything is pointing to Ichikawa's getting it. Ichikawa's getting what Yamada's laying down. But I think this entire episode was just like, oh, I feel so bad for this girl. Like, Yamada is just, she's pushing so hard. And you could tell how uncomfortable she is. They just did a great job of expressing how, like, fidgety she was. Like, she couldn't sit still. Like, he's like, you're acting weird. She's like, oh, I always act weird. She says that I always act weird. It literally is her being extremely embarrassed and extremely uncomfortable trying to push herself. She was getting out of her comfort zone, and it was so beautiful. It was just such a sweet episode. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just dive right into this episode. Of course, jumping right into Valentine's Day. Again, for those that would possibly not know how this works, essentially in Japan, Valentine's Day is where the girls give away chocolates. Most of it's obligatory for, like, school and stuff like that. Businesses will have obligatory chocolates. It's just, there's no love behind it. It's just, here, I want to give you some sweets. And yes, in some cases, some girls will give actual chocolates to the boys that they like. And then on White Day, the boy will return it, thus signifying that they want that relationship. So that's why Ichikawa, towards the later part of this episode, is like, I'm going to do it. White Day, I'm going to make sure she gets chocolates. I have to return that, otherwise it doesn't work. But anyways, it's just a tradition kind of thing. But yes, it's Valentine's Day. The boys are complaining about obligatory chocolates, kind of giving the wrong impression. They don't like it. Which, yes, kind of plays into Ichikawa's mind as, yes, Yamada's going around getting a lot of chocolates, going around up and down that hallway for the first years, and all the girls squeeing and running up and giving her chocolates. Eventually, yes, they go into the library, and that's the point in which Yamada plays a game with him. And it seems like she purposely gives in, and then says, winner takes all, take it. Yeah, he's kind of confused, like, is she giving this to me as obligatory, or am I getting the wrong impression here? And then they go outside, Yamada pulls him off to the side. We see Hara giving her chocolates to Kanzaki, and then Yamada's like, oh yeah, that would be, I'm so jealous. And he's like, well, you can't have all the chocolates. That's not what I'm talking about. She's jealous of the fact that they exchanged it as lovers. Ichikawa, come on, dude. But yes, I absolutely loved the whole scenes after this. Like, everything beyond this is pure gold. Like, this point on is literally, like, my favorite moment, like, literally in this entire season so far. And the great thing about this bike ride is that, yes, it's a callback to back here when they first rode on the bike and how he was terrified. And back then, she was expressing to him this idea of him being afraid of change. And he says that was the reason why I couldn't stop, despite the fact that I was terrified of going by that police booth. I was afraid I was going to get in trouble. But I still pushed through it because you essentially challenged me in a way. Now, what's great about this whole thing is, like, she's like, oh, I said that? Yeah, you said that, so I couldn't stop. He says, for someone like you, who's always pushing to change, you won't understand it. But then she says, here, I understand it now because she kind of likes where she's at. It's kind of this thing of, like, Ichikawa back here was afraid of change because it made him uncomfortable. Here, Yamada is agreeing with the idea of liking not changing simply because it seems like, obviously, the assumption is, without knowing what she's thinking about, is that she doesn't want to move from what they're doing now. I don't want this to change. I want to always be at your side. So it's a really kind of little sweet moment there. But yes, the convenience store, going to the convenience store. Oh gosh, it was just like this. Okay, we have to get more chocolates. She goes in there, grabs a chocolate, and then she's trying to figure out from Ichikawa how to express, if I give you this chocolate, how can I basically how can I give you this chocolate and you understand that I'm giving it to you not as obligation but as romantic? And Ichikawa's like, well, I guess they would have to kind of say it. You would just lay it out there, otherwise you might get the wrong idea. And then he goes, oh yeah, and then also Adachi said something about heart-shaped ones. It was like, Yamada looked at the thing in her hand. I'm like, oh gosh, girl, you're gonna do it, aren't you? Yeah, sure enough, shove it right in the face. Here you go, have this. And this is where it starts. This is where it starts like, oh, come on, Ichikawa, please get it. This girl's trying way too hard to give you the hints. Please get it. Without her actually saying it, she's literally saying it. And then yes, that getting up really close, I'm like, is she gonna like kiss? No, I knew it was because of the chocolate on her face. I was like, don't. I actually was gonna freak out if she licked it, but no, she's like pushed it, then runs off. It was like, Ichikawa, you have a heart-shaped thing in your hand. Please get it. But here starts the frustration for me though, because right after this, he literally buys some chocolates and then gives it to her and says, "You said that you were being a boy today. So here's some chocolates, Melty Kiss branded chocolates," and then runs off and yells about how he did something stupid and weird. It's Ichikawa. This right here, I could have been frustrated, but I'm like, it's Ichikawa. He's a dork. He's gonna do dorky things. I'll let it slide. My boy Ichikawa, he's gonna correct his path, right? Okay, we'll and then sure enough, he gets a text, goes outside, and I'm like, okay, Yamada is really trying hard right now. Yamada is really pushing right now. She literally came back to you. There's something else. Like she came back because I'm guessing she realized she didn't get the point across. I smeared this in his face, and he even thinks about it too, in this idea of like getting the wrong impression and it having to be spelled out. I think Yamada, once she went home, she realized that she didn't flat out say it. So I think she wanted to make sure that he knew. So she comes back to his house. Oh, I was walking my dog. Sure, Yamada. Okay, girl. And they have a little walk. And eventually, she's being a total goofball with the whole, like, gambling off the vending machine and just being a dork about it, sitting down, talking about random stuff. He eventually points out how she's being weird. And then, yes, they ask about giving out chocolates. And this is kind of a weird little moment in what they're talking about here, because she says, Ichikawa, did you get any chocolates? He said, no. And he said, did you give away any chocolates? Obligatory ones. No. Okay, there it is right there. Okay, Ichikawa, she literally just said she did not give any obligation chocolates, and you got a whole bunch from her. Get a clue. But it was kind of weird how that was kind of laid out. But then she gives him a second chocolate. And this one says Tsu on it, which, yeah, is pretty much like usually for I like you, it's Tsuki. And I've seen, like, I went and checked the manga to see how this was laid out, because there is sort of a word play here that can sometimes get lost. And they were kind of, there was some side notes that kind of mentioned the idea that the character for the chocolates that he brought home from Yamada's house had ki in it, which is, I think they were implying the idea of he got the first part of the chocolate, which technically had the same character, but it's not necessarily the same character, because I think they had a problem there with changing it to friends. But it's sort of the idea here that, with that aside, yes, technically the two of them together could be Tsuki, but she technically, in the 71st chapter of the manga, which I don't think we ever showed in the anime, she was working hard to make the imprint to put a I like you on the chocolate, essentially. And so that's why she's up here. This is sort of one of those things that I think is sort of lost with the adaptation, because there was no implications that she went through all this effort to make this impression for his chocolate. She went through the effort of trying to make it to where she can stamp a chocolate and give it to him. But she messed it up. All it said was Tsu. And she split it up and gave it to him, and he's still not getting what she's trying to tell him, which is, I like you. That's why right here she breaks down. Which, without all that context that I had to look into later on, after I watched the episode, it doesn't change the fact that I still got the hint here that Yamada is frustrated because she can't seem to do it right. She's not sure how to do it. There's no book here that she could have read a book on it, but there's nothing here telling her how to do this, and she's fumbling through it. She made this chocolate for him. This chocolate was specifically made for him. This isn't part of the batch they made before. And again, she imprinted it with the Tsu on there. She wanted to tell him, I like you. And she gave him the chocolate and messed up the whole situation in her mind. That's why she starts breaking down. I messed it up. I did it wrong. And that's when he thinks it's because, you know, he thinks she's talking about it, that it's not sweet. And he's like, no, it's sweet. I like it. It's good. Okay, then give me a hug. Then give a hug. Give me another one. Give me another hug. I love how much this series, I love how much they hug. Again, I've said it before, I'm a hugger, and I love how much they hug. Yeah, it was super sweet. And again, a little bit frustrating still that Ishikawa's not getting it, but then, yes, like I said, he gets home, and I'm going, please get it, and finally it snaps. I think she's trying to tell me something. Finally, it says, Yamada likes ... He finally gets that, yes, she likes you. And that's when it cuts the next scene, and suddenly he's going all aboard the idea of making the best chocolate for White Day possible for her. And I was like, thank you, my boy. I loved it. It was so freaking sweet. And then, yes, to kind of have that little confirmation moment there where Adachi realizes that, yeah, Ishikawa's got somebody that he's got to invite somewhere. And so he's mad about it. And then he says something about she's probably ugly. And you see Moika and Yamada over there just furious about what he just said. It's super sweet. Again, everything in these two scenes right here established that these two realize they like each other. And I'm super hyped for what's to come. But yeah, the following scene was great too, because you have that whole kind of what do we do thing. Adachi's trying to figure out what he's going to do for Moika. Again, if he ends up getting a lingerie for her, I'm going to lose it. But yes, they go to meet Nanjo. Which, yes, for those who don't remember from the first season, Nanjo was the guy that was trying to get Yamada's info. And he dragged pretty much Ishikawa and Moika into the situation, found out that Ishikawa has her contact, wanted to force him into giving that contact info to him. Moika, that was the point at which Moika realized that Ishikawa was a good boy. Moika came in there and kind of dragged him out of there. But yes, this guy is supposed to be the genius for finding out information on how to treat women, and Adachi has dragged Ishikawa over to him. And I love this because it was pretty much like the guy that's like super suave, the guy that has all the girls, and Adachi thinks that this guy is the bestower of all knowledge. And everything that Nanjo says, Ichikawa's like, really? That doesn't seem right. Really? That doesn't seem right. It's like one of those moments where Ichikawa acting like he knows it a lot better than this guy does, and it's thrown everything back in his face. The part that I really liked the most was the fact that he literally says, you know, you'll never understand her. That you can't get her what she wants because we're different beings. You'll never understand women. And Ichikawa was like, really? Yeah, we technically have different upbringings. You know, we have different tastes, different values. But when you get to know them, you find out what you have in common, finding what you can share or understand about each other. And I love that because it's so much with Yamada. This is Ichikawa basically repeating what Yamada has been trying to drill into his head for the longest time. Remember, this was another thing that was like late in season 1. He was upset about the idea that, you know, she keeps trying to bring up all this crap and I don't understand any of it. Yamada was trying to find something to connect with Ichikawa with. That was that whole sequence of events there was Yamada fighting to find some commonality with Ichikawa. She wanted to talk about something that he'd be interested in. And so she kept throwing things at the wall, hoping one of them will stick. And he's repeating this back to Nanjo. Because he learned that. Through Yamada, he learned that eventually you find a commonality, you begin to understand each other, and that's when you make that connection. So yeah, it's like he's literally just bestowing this knowledge back in his face. Like, no, you think that you can't get them, you're just not figuring it out. You don't understand a girl's feelings, basically. Nanjo wouldn't understand it because they're sort of portraying him as being the playboy. This guy that was really forceful trying to get with Yamada, that doesn't understand how women think. That was a weird statement they made. Like, they part ways, and so Adachi's like, yeah, the guy tells him, yeah, get lingerie. And yeah, Adachi's like, yeah, I thought so. Let's do that. And then he turns to Ichikawa. He's like, yeah, this guy knows everything, right? And Ichikawa's like, I think I learned more from you than that guy. But yeah, that final little scene there is Ichikawa walking and then Yamada calling out to him. And him having that hesitation of not wanting to wave. But then Nanjo walks up and he goes to wave. So Ishikawa has to jump in there. And I think Yamada realized what he was doing. And she rushes down there and grabs him and runs off together. That was totally like that. Hey, Nanjo, she's mine. And then Yamada comes running down to basically say, hey, Nanjo, I'm his. It was so sweet. I loved it. It was just a great way to kind of end the episode. It was a total, these two have established They haven't said it, and that is frustrating, but they've basically said it. All the actions around everything they've done basically has said they understand each other. They both like each other. They gotta cross that line. They just gotta cross that final line. Oh, it's actually very shocking to me. Unless they start spinning, unless this series starts spinning its wheels, which I pray it doesn't. It has essentially done a great job progressing this relationship, and I'm kind of interested to see what else we can do for this season. I say I don't want it to sit here and spin its wheels and constantly have them wonder what they should do, and will they, won't they finally confess? But at the same time, it always does a great job of still entertaining me as they're struggling over communicating that. It's just fantastic writing through and through. And it's shocking how much this season has been breakneck speed. Like, I cannot tell you how much, like, every single one of these episodes is so impactful and so heartfelt and so emotional and has me, like, at the edge of my seat just wanting these two to just be together that I'm kind of shocked by that. But anyways, that's my gushing of episode 16 of Dangers in My Heart. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment. Let me know if this series is as amazing as it is for you. Once again, a reminder, Dangers in My Heart Season 1 is not in the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, and it's an absolute crime. I don't know what's going through those guys' heads when they made that list. They didn't have Kaguya-sama Love is War either, so I don't know why Dangers in My Heart and Kaguya-sama Love is War, the two greatest romances of last year, did not end up on that list, but apparently Horimiya's skip content episodes was better. A romance. Whatever. Anyways, if you like this content, you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips, links, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody does, and y'all take care.